Hey everyone, this is Dan Racer from the Karura and Akala team. We talk a lot about the products that we're building at Karura and Akala when it comes to our decentralized exchange, our stablecoin, and our liquid staking products, but there's another big component to both Karura and Akala, and today I'm going to get into the details on how the Karura Treasury works and why this is so important for the future of the network. So what is the Karura Treasury in general? So the Treasury is a reserve of digital tokens, both native, which is KAR, and foreign to Karura, which refers to things like KSM. This is governed by KAR holders and funded from Karura's protocol fees, which I'll get into later. And the whole purpose of this is to really enable the network to become self-sustainable and enable the network to self-fund its own growth. So the two main goals of the Karura Treasury are, number one, as I mentioned, self-sustainability, and number two, ecosystem growth. So let's go into the first goal. So when it comes to self-sustainability, what we're really talking about is being able to self-sustain our own parachain slot on Kusama. So as you may know, this parachain slots on Kusama last for up to 48 weeks, which is about a year. And this process involves this parachain slot auction, which requires either a crowd loan or funding another way to self-fund your own parachain slot auction. You have to win this auction in order to launch on the network, but you also have to continue winning auctions, in Kusama's case, every year to enable your network to keep running. So when it comes to the first year after our lease is running out, the network itself, the community of these network owners, will choose how to actually approach the next auction. So we'll discuss it, we'll vote on it, and there's a few main ways that we can go about this. So number one, we could host another crowd loan and just exclusively do a crowd loan from the community. So we would have to come up with a way to fund that crowd loan, so providing rewards for people to actually come in and support Karura's next crowd loan, just like we did with the first one. The second option is to self-fund, exclusively self-fund. So this is where we would actually use our own treasury to bid in the auction, and we wouldn't, in this case, wouldn't involve the community in that process, which would allow the network to not have to come up with tokens to fund that additional crowd loan like we did first. And then the third option is a hybrid of these two. So what we would do is we would open up a crowd loan. We would say, hey, everyone in the community, come support Karura in our second auction, our third auction, whatever it may be. And in return for your 1 KSM, we may be able to provide 10 or 20 or whatever it ends up being. But since we opened up the crowd loan, the hybrid means that we would actually be able to contribute our own KSM from the Karura Treasury into the crowd loan. So we would be another participant along with everyone from the community in this case. So here's a breakdown of what I just said in kind of a process flow and how this looks. So I'm going to use my mouse and just go through this. So here's where we are today. So we earned the first Kusama parachain slot with exclusively using a community-backed crowd loan. So it ended up being around 19 or 20, I believe exactly 19.95 KAR for every KSM that was contributed by the community. This slot will last 48 weeks. So around this time next year, so around June of next year, we will be due for renewing our slot on Kusama. So this brings us to this point where this is going to come up as a community discussion. We'll most likely vote on this and discuss how to move forward with the next crowd loan. So in the purple here, we could do a crowd loan only. The red here, we could self-fund, so only using the KSM and the Karura Treasury. Or we could do a hybrid, which is probably the most likely case coming up to the second auction next year. So for this case, we would open up a community crowd loan and contribute also from the Karura Treasury into our own crowd loan along with everyone from the community. So in this case, we would earn another parachain slot after we win an auction next year. The slot, again, will last 48 weeks unless something happens with Kusama's governance. But at this point, most likely, it'll continue being 48 weeks. And then after 48 weeks, Karura will be due again to renew the slot. So that's why it's really important to be thinking about this ahead of time. So we're already planning for this. We've been planning for this since even the white paper was written for Akala and Karura. So This would put us 2 years out from now. And in this case, our goal is to get to the point where we will be self-funding exclusively from the Karura Treasury and not needing to do crowd loans. What this enables the network to do is to continue to self-fund these slots every year for the rest of time, or until the network changes, the governance changes, the way the network is sustained. What this also allows Karura to do is to have a fixed token supply. So we don't need to print unnecessary tokens to fund future crowd loans. We can just use our own treasury to self-sustain the network. So people who have a percentage ownership of the network, that will be able to be maintained without any form of staking or inflation involved. So what else can the Karura Treasury do? So the Karura Treasury enables ecosystem growth, as I mentioned, is the second goal of the Treasury. If you're familiar at all with the Polkadot Treasury or the Kusama Treasury, we can do similar things. We can fund software development, tool development. For example, maybe someone has a great DeFi dashboard, or maybe they're building a mobile app. We can fund those things from the Treasury if it's approved. We can also fund things like network security, marketing initiatives, events, and then another component to this is actually kind of more on the DeFi and the technical side. So in the upper left here, you can see Bootstrap protocol liquidity. So we'll have all of these DeFi protocols, like I mentioned, the DEX and the stablecoin. We can actually bootstrap the liquidity or the order books of the DEX, for example, with our own treasury. And then in the bottom right here is self-funding a parachain slot, which I walked through on the last slide. And then a very important component here, and I'll walk through the operations of the Treasury next, but a Karura Treasury proposal will be the means by which somebody can propose anything to be funded by the Karura Treasury. This can be discussed and voted on by the community and from the council. And then if it's approved, then those funds will be deployed, whether it's native tokens like KAR or whether it's foreign tokens like KSM that the Karura Treasury is holding. Those will be deployed to whoever applied to the Treasury. So the Treasury is funded in a couple main ways. So first and foremost is the protocol and network fees. So if you imagine doing a transaction on Karura where at the bottom it'll say network fee, part of this transaction fee is going into the Treasury every time a transaction is done on Karura. So this means that over time, more and more KAR for each of those transactions will be acquired and accumulated in the Karura Treasury. This applies to stability fees for the stablecoin, liquidation fees from liquidity providers, transaction fees in general, and then liquid staking fees for LKSM and many other fees that we may see in the future. The other aspect is the Akala Treasury will have significant funding from community events and also from protocol and network fees. And the Akala Treasury can also vote to convert some of their funds, whether it's ACA or whether it's DOT, into KSM, and then use that to fund the Karura Treasury from Akala. So it's again this kind of sister network relationship where Karura is helping Akala and Akala can help make Karura better. In this regard would be with regards to the Treasury. So operating and governing the Treasury is collectively owned by all the network owners, so KAR holders. Any proposal can be done on-chain by anyone who's holding KAR, and then each proposal will be voted on and approved or declined by all the KAR holders who are involved in governance. Where the Karura Council comes in is that the council can provide oversight and make sure that everything is kind of being done safely and securely. And if there is a proposal that seems to be just unsafe for the networks, just unsafe for the network in general or for the community, for the technology even, the Karura Council can veto, but that's the only power that the Karura Council has over these decisions. So what that looks like is when you're operating the Treasury, any KAR holder can raise a KTP or a Karura Treasury proposal. The Karura Council at the next step would come in and provide oversight and can veto if needed. And then the KAR holders here will vote on that proposal. And then if something is approved, then either whatever token is involved in that proposal will be deployed. So if it's KAR, if it's KSM, will be deployed to whoever was proposing that spend by the Treasury. So the last section here is an example. So let's go to the example that we walked through before around funding the next parachain slot auction. So this individual here, Karura1, posted something to our discourse forum where they're providing a proposal discussion and context around what they're trying to spend this treasury funding on. They're looking for community feedback around the proposal to deploy KSM in support of Karura's bid in the next auction. Description, blah, blah, blah. So then we get to the point where this is actually, everyone kind of agrees that this is what we should do in the discussion. And then this is actually put on chain. So it's proposed to deploy Karura Treasury's KSM for the next parachain slot auction. And then finally, upon vote, this will show that it was executed, and then whoever proposed it will either receive the funds or it'll go to where it was kind of destined to go. So in this case, it would go into the crowd loan module for the Karura Treasury, or sorry, for the Karura parachain slot auction in general. So that's it. I hope you learned something new around the Karura Treasury and how important this is to all of us involved in the Karura network. It'll help us to be self-sustainable and self-sustain future parachain auctions without needing to inflate our token supply. And it'll also help in many ways to fund the growth of the network in general. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us. We're always on Discord and always watching out for comments on Twitter and elsewhere. So thank you. Bye.